Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about From Season 3, Episode 4. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, let's start off with Victor and Sarah. So let's pick up where they were. And Victor talks about the time, he's like, I used to play in these houses all the time. And it's like this particular house that Sarah's in. And he's like, yeah, that used to be me and my sister's favorite place to be. We couldn't play at night because obviously we had to hide. That was before talismans were discovered, because Boyd is the first person to discover talismans. So the way Victor talked about it, and maybe that had come up in previous seasons and I never really quite got that point. It makes sense in the grand scheme of things that Victor is probably like, he's like, there's a couple years that he's been alone. Because we know, example, Donna. Donna and them have only, Donna was here, 2 or 3 years? Prior to the beginning of this series. But, they were kind of they are probably, I would assume that means, Donna might be one of the oldest groups that's been here. Because of that. And once again, the talismans weren't even found until Boyd found him. So once again, it's really interesting to think about. But it's once again, my point from bringing this up was I guess I underestimated how long Victor was in that town alone, which that plays up and adds to the factors of why he's so scared to remember anything. And that's what this is. He has this suitcase that is kind of a treasure trove of items because he could not bury every body. Makes sense. You were a little kid, which begs the question, what happened to those other bodies? He probably was able to bury some, but he couldn't bury a lot of them. But it's did monsters come and grab the corpses? Did some of those people become said monsters? And the monsters infect him and start wearing them skin suits? I have no idea. His only companion for such a long time was the boy in white. And he's like, yeah, he was my friend. We played and stuff like that. And during the night, I hid. He also has the guilt of, my sister left when my mom told us to hide, but I stayed. I obeyed my mom. And when I came up, everyone was dead. So. And for him, he feels whatever happened then, for things went so sideways. And the thing that he feels sparked all of that, he's like, yeah, there was one guy who was fun and everything. What's his name? Christopher. He was the fun guy. He was a ventriloquist. He had a dummy named Jasper. And it's yeah, this guy was the fun guy until he started seeing the symbols like Jade and started being more and more alone. To be fair, people have been around Jade, so Jade's not as alone, but maybe he just hasn't gotten to that point yet. Because once again, he's not the only one seeing stuff. There are currently 3 people that were seeing stuff. There was Jade, there was Tabitha, and there's, I always forget Home Dude's name. He was in this episode seeing that woman again who's asking for help. Was it Egan or something like that? Igian, I'm so sorry. I always forget that character's name. It always slips my mind. But that's the only 3 people who are actively seeing stuff. Once again, you carry you leave out a Randall, a Julie, and a Marielle because they're stimulating circles of that. We'll get to that later when we talk about the other side of the episode. But Jade seems to be the pinnacle point of he even talks about it when he's with Kenny and Christy, yo, I've been seeing stuff since I got here, and it's just it's so interesting too, considering he's seeing all this stuff, but then Tabitha was the chosen one. So I'm wondering, are they supposed to be opposite sides of the pendulum, where Tabitha's supposed to be yeah, I'm the chosen one to save the kids in the tower? Is Jade supposed to be the one that pops off, goes crazy, and becomes almost a vessel for this place to channel through? I'm wondering if there's something like that. Once again, Lost producers and stuff like that. The island itself, once again, it's been a hot minute since I saw Lost. I watched a lot of Lost all at once. I'm not going to go into details, but I watched it, was on Netflix. I don't think it's still on Netflix anymore. I don't know, if they got rights back or whatever. The license was rights back for it. But I watched most of Lost pretty back to back to back, and that was a couple years ago, so I might not be remembering as well. But the whole point was the island kind of personified good versus evil, and so I'm curious if that's kind of what this is supposed to be. Tabitha's supposed to be good, and then you have Jade as a potential vessel for the bad. I wonder if that's kind of maybe that's where. What I was about to say, Victor's mom was kind of supposed to be all good. Granted, she was seeing stuff before she even got there, which is kind of the biggest questionable thing, Jay did not see stuff until he got here, and seemed like Christopher was probably in the same boat. So it's so many possibilities, and just there's so much that we and the characters don't know enough to kind of put the pieces together yet, you know? But either way, like, this whole situation that Victor's trying to do is he's trying to remember, because he's like, whatever's, like, there's something that went down that's the key to all this, and he's thinking, like, if I can figure it out, then maybe, just maybe, I can help save other people. Because he's like, I know there's something I need to remember. It's the only way I can make sure not more people die. Because, you know, especially having, like, is he close to a lot of people here? No, but he does care enough about the people of, whoa, for one, I don't want to see more people die. I see that enough. I think the Tianjin's death was like the real, like gut punch. Just because of who she was and what she represented. It's just like, she was kind of a very caring person. She looked after everyone. And so it's a gut punch that, like, I think pushed him to be like, yo, I need to remember so that nothing like this happens again. You know, because that's the death that really pushed him over the edge, I think. And I thought it was interesting, too, that he brought Sarah. And Sarah's like, well, why me? He's like, I don't want to do this alone because I'm afraid, like, whatever it is that's going to scare me, whatever I'm going to remember is going to scare me. And that's what terrifies me. But you are the scariest thing in this town. And it's like, if, you know, nothing can scare you. Which is like, it's meant, like Victor doesn't have any tact. He was just kind of like, yeah, like my mom and my sister died. I mean, I didn't murder them like you murdered your brother. You know, it's like, you know, Victor doesn't have any tact, obviously, but you know, he was just kind of stating a fact. He wasn't meaning it as any shade. And the same thing in this regard, like, yeah, I think you're scary, but your scary might be what's necessary. And so Victor started taking that trip down memory lane. Because if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Jade seeing a puppet last season? Because now part of me is like, am I conflating that with Evil? Because there was a puppet that was popping up and disappearing in Evil, wasn't it? But I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of From, that this series had like a puppet that Jade kept seeing. I don't remember. Maybe it was that puppet Jasper, which we do see at some point when Victor was around Christopher. He was so alone and started kind of like turning within himself, retreating within himself is what I'm trying to say. And he started talking to Jasper, and Jasper started talking back. You're like, what the fuck? Okay. So for him, it's like, if I want the answers to this, I need to find Jasper. So it's like, what answers will he get? Will Jasper actually talk? Or, like I said, is he like some, like, supposed to be some totem that represents whatever's going on in this town? Once again, just pure speculation on my part. So, staying with another small part of the episode, we have the whole Jade, Christy, and Kenny of it all. Kenny's writing letters to his mom because he's like, oh, you're supposed to like write them on like holidays to write to the dead. But for him, it's just like, it's kind of a comfort just to write to his mom. And for him, it was just, you know, because, you know, Christy's reminding him, it's like, I meant what I said last episode. You were not alone. There are people here with you. But for him, it's like, the thing that was worth fighting for here and that he was fighting to get back to is all gone, you know, and it's kind of like the only people he had to talk about that stuff with after his dad was gone was, and his dad being in the condition he was in, the only person he could really communicate with is Christy and his mom, and now his mom's gone, but Christy's like, I'm still here, which I think there's some level of Kenny that's afraid, like, the one person I'm holding on to in this place, because he cares about Boyd, but he doesn't really talk to Boyd about that stuff. Like, the one person he's really, that's keeping him grounded, keeping him going, which he was kind of pushing her away because he was just drowning in his sadness, but it's also like, I think on some level he's pushing her away because he doesn't want, he's angry and he's sad and he's just a whole range of emotions. But on top of that, it's like you're scared the person that you have left will end up dying. So this place continues to take and take and take from you. But I thought it was interesting too because like the guilt that Victor has about like, oh, I feel like I'm trying to discover this place, as he brought up and someone else had reminded me in the comments. Cause I had brought it up in one episode. I was like, it's never snowed here before, has it? And they were like, no, it hasn't. And Victor brings that up this episode, and he says like it's never snowed here, and he's brought that up over the course of these seasons where he's just like every so often he's like, things are changing here. Nothing ever changes, which we'll kind of get to that later because that also plays a role in this episode. But you know, I think he felt, like I said, I think he felt a little guilt of like, I potentially have the answers, and because I don't understand everything, I thought I figured it all out. I'm trying to figure it all out. People are dying. And you take someone like Jade, who's like, oh, I thought I was smart enough, because he blames himself for the tension of it all too, because he's like, I'm supposed to be smart and I couldn't do anything. Like, she was nice to me. She gave me this book. Somehow she knew like this book was back there. And Kenny's like, yeah, my mom knew that place back and forth. She knows exactly what every item is and where it is, you know? And it's guilt that Jade has of like, if I was smarter, as smart as I thought I was, I could have figured this out, and maybe we could have made some progress, and maybe Tian Shin wouldn't have even been in this situation she was in. Like, you know, it's a lot of what ifs about how things could have been different. And I loved Kenny being like, my mom really liked you. He's like, no, she tolerated. He's like, no, she really did. My mom only frowned at people that she liked, you know? If she didn't like you, she just ignored you. Which is like, oh, really sweet. Because she was once again, she's a mother, but she just had a very nurturing personality. And that's what makes it such a gut punch. And even, I love that line from Jade being like, well, when you finish with your letter, make sure tell your mom hi from everybody. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. But then we have like some rummaging outside, and you know, because he had told them what he saw last episode, and once again, the whole aspect of I've been seeing stuff since I first got here, but there was like rummaging outside, and it's like, right, are you sure what you saw were just hallucinations? They seem to be, but there could be something else too, because, well, we know that the tent got tossed by something. That was the whole point, right? So it could be that same thing. Maybe those totem things or whatever that they kind of tore apart last episode to bring back that bar to give leverage so that Chrissy could get out of bear trap. It's like, right, we don't know how long they've been up and why they've been up. Maybe they did serve a purpose. They were maybe like an old school version of the talismans, or maybe they're kind of, well, I feel like they would have noticed if it was like made from the same material as the talismans or something, but maybe it's kind of like an older school version. Like maybe this is the thing that predated the talismans before someone ended up making said talismans. Because once again, Boyd just found them. So someone had to have made them. Not like, I mean, could have just been like a naturally made thing, but maybe someone that lived here before made those. Pre-Victor. Like even being here. So we have that. Then we pick up with like the main crux of the episode. There's multiple parts to this, so I'm going to be bouncing all over the place. I'm kind of giving you a little heads up. But so first and foremost, let's start off with the Tabitha stuff. I was like, okay, I'm not sure. I'm like, is this going to be a setup of like, because last episode I was like pretty sure she's back into town, but I'm like, there might be a thing of like this F show is effing with us. It's like, no, she's back. Because the moment the birds pop up, I was like, nope, this is happening. Especially when they were like, how are we in the woods? We shouldn't be in the woods. Like they should be like patrols and stuff around. I'm like, okay, so you're really here. You're back. So she's kind of like, no, trying to explain to them, but they're not listening to her. So they're driving, and the problem is, it's dark. You're like, oh, because it was like, which I think is interesting, because maybe it wasn't. I was like, I could have sworn at one point in time you were seeing that it was different points in time last episode. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I could have sworn like in the town it was dark, but maybe like where they were when they got to the tree it wasn't dark, even though in the town it already was. I feel like that was the case last episode, but it's also like, right, you're in different parts of the country, different time zones, and this place is its own little pocket dimension. You know, there's all of that, but either way, you have Ethan picking up the phone and talking to Thomas, and Thomas is like, oh, your mom's in the ambulance and she needs your help, which I'm like, first and foremost, why would you even tell them that? I mean, they would have discovered the ambulance on its own, but I think there's also an element of, oh, we want everything to fall into place. We want to, once again, give you hope so we can rip it apart from you, but also it's like, yeah, the more people that are outside trying to help, the more victims there can be, so maybe that's what they were playing at, because they want Ethan to be a kid rushing out on his own trying to save his mom so he could get killed, you know? Because, like I said, Ethan does seem like he's in a special spot because he seems like he's kind of supposed to fill that same void, that same space as Victor. But even though it's like he's not quite there to Victor because Victor's all alone and kind of had to become that, whereas like Ethan isn't. I don't know. At the same time this is all going down, you have Boyd and Randall on the bus. And Randall points, well, first and foremost, he's like, okay, are you really trying to come up with this asinine plan? He's like, why are you here? And he's like, right, you haven't seen what I've seen. He's like, Mariel, me, and me and Julie are all experienced something. He's like, we went somewhere else. We saw that this place can do something worse than death. And like, I don't know, like, because Julie talks about it later on with Ethan. She doesn't remember exactly what happened while she was in that state last season, but she remembers the fear that she was more scared than she's ever been in her life. And it's like, death apparently isn't the scariest thing here. Well, we saw what Boyd saw, which he hasn't talked to anyone about it. Like, he saw them in that, like, area before he smashed the music box. So I don't know what to make of that. Like, that was like it probably wasn't where they were, but it was kind of a physical representation of like they're trapped somewhere and their minds are somewhere else and they're seeing something else, and I just not sure what it is that they saw. And because even, like I said, Julie doesn't even know what she saw. She can't quite remember. She just remembers the fear. But either way, Randall starts pointing out, okay, something's not right here. He's like, the creatures aren't here. He's like, they have a routine. He's like, I've been here every night. That one, the nurse, always comes, hums, taps on the window. He's like, there's a couple over here. He's like, these things are very routine. And it plays into what I was saying earlier about Victor saying this place is changing. To be fair, because they also like, oh, there's a change happening because the ambulance is here. Which even Tabitha's telling them like, hey, just keep going, keep going, keep going. Don't try and turn around, because it's like, last thing we want to be out here in the woods at night. So it's like, yeah, let's get to the town so we can get inside as soon as possible. They make it to the town, but that's the problem. Like, usually, hopefully, people show up during the day. That's usually your best benefit, which has kind of worked out for them, at least, you know, whether it's Jim and his family, which also coincided with Jade and them, and the guy he was in the car with, as well as like the bus. That all happened during the day. So you had that extra benefit. This time it's like, of course, like it's all going to happen at night. They set a trap. There was one of the creatures laying out in the middle of the road. Two of the paramedics got out, got gutted. I was like, man, is everyone going to die? I was like, or is that cop going to survive? She ultimately does, but yeah, kind of sucked. I mean, granted, you were panicked, you were surrounded. It still sucks that you ran off on your own. Like, you probably could have skirted by and gotten back in the vehicle with Tabitha, who you left handcuffed in there because you handcuffed her because she seemed manic and crazy. But it's like, yeah, you left her and Henry to defend himself, who's still unconscious. But luckily, Jim, Randall, and Boyd ran out there. But all of them are just like, holy shit, like, what? Whoa, what's going on here? How is she? All right, let's get some tools to get Tabitha. Randall goes from the bus, but on his way back, he sees the bug, and you're like, oh god, he's gonna be haunted to an extent, and that's gonna like screw things up. And it does. Like, he's so caught up in like the bugs and stuff, even though they're not there, it's what he's seeing, and it puts him in a position for the creatures to grab him. And they give Boyd an option. Okay, you can get out here with the others, or you can save Randall. You can't save everybody. So, and just like all Boyd could say is, fuck you for putting me in this position. And it's sucky he had to take off, but there was like more people to be concerned with, you know? And it's like, there is no easy choices and there's no good choices in this situation. My immediate thought was, are they going to turn Randall into one of them? Is that what they're going to... Because like so I was like, is that like what they put Mario, him, and Julie through? Is that some kind of hollowing process of like they're trying to empty you out to turn you into a monster? I'm kind of wondering if the same things happen to Fatima, or maybe it's happening to her baby, but it's also happening to her in the process. Once again, just a lot happening. The cop is shooting at the monsters. A bullet goes through the window, hits Nikki. Mario is able to get the bullet out, luckily, because I was like, the moment she was bleeding a lot, I was like, oh, there's not going to be an exit wound, is it? And it's like, no, it wasn't. It seemed like it was okay the moment he pulled the bullet out. But yeah, sadly, ultimately, Nikki ends up dying, that sucks. Especially because like that character's been getting a little more screen time every episode, because she kind of comes off a little bit like an asshole, but she kind of apologizes. So like the last time her and Fatima talked, they seem to be on a good term, but even Fatima's like, yeah, I kind of wish I'd been nicer. And it's like, but you know, Ellis is like, yeah, but everyone's kind of been on each other's case recently. Like, we've all kind of stressed out, so it's understandable. But then what happens with Fatima? I was like, the moment she was in the room alone with Nikki's dead body, I was like, please don't start eating her. Please don't start eating her. Please don't do what starts digging her finger in the bullet wound. I'm like, there you go. And she started eating the blood, starts digging deeper in the wound. I'm like, cool. I'm like, if you start eating the body, I think people are going to start noticing the body's missing pieces to it. Like, so for now, you're just eating the blood, but you're probably going to start pulling out chunks, but you don't want to because that's going to draw too much attention, considering, well, Ellis saw you be the last one with the body. Granted, you're probably hoping that no one will notice because it's like, right, you just have to wrap the body back up. They're not going to pay too much attention, but it's like if the body falls out someone's hands and the body comes unraveled, that could blow your spot up. Especially with the whole Tilly of it all, which she was catching flack this episode because it's like, yeah, considering what this place is, how is it, do you think it's really a smart thing to do with the whole tarot card thing? It's like, right, she was just trying to help out Fatima, but it's like, yeah, like you're talking about, I mean, once again, we never even got to see what the cards were, you know? It's kind of a moot point. Maybe they would have told Fatima something, given her an early sign of what's to come, maybe. Boyd has kind of had it up here when he like gets there and it, you know, he gets pissed at the cop being like, do you see what you did? You coming? Like, once again, you can't blame her, Boyd. Like, she didn't know what was going on. Like, she was just firing at these monsters. She's scared. No one had time to process. Like, once again, everyone has to see it for themselves. Once again, you have to drive around the town for a little bit before they bring up the spike strips because they got to let you know, like, hey, all right, let you get confused for a bit, then stop you, and then we'll inform you, like, okay, this is what's what. Yeah, even though you're prepping people, even though they still won't listen to you, you're at least prepping them. She was thrown into the deep end, like, oh my God, monsters around. So it's understandable why she'd be freaked and panic. Anyone would. And obviously, Boyd was just taking his frustrations out on her about the Randall of it all and the Nikki of it all and just this place. It's just one thing after another. Hell, even to the point Donna finally breaks down. And I'm sure Donna, the last time Donna probably broke down is when her sister died. Because she's become that person that she's been that pillar of strength for so many people, for the town, for Colony House, that she doesn't want to show any weakness. And that's why the only person she broke down in front of was Boyd. She couldn't, like, they could only be vulnerable with each other because we have to be strong for our people. They are seen as the pillars, the leaders. And if people see Donna freaking the fuck out, they're going to freak the fuck out. They already are, but she's holding it together for other people's sake, and that's the struggle. You're the leader. You have to keep your shit together more so than anybody, even though this place is kicking your back in, you know? And it's just like, as she said, one thing after another. Why won't they just leave us alone? This place is tormenting us, doing one thing after another. And it's a lot. I love that the moment Tabitha entered Colony House, everyone's looking at her like, yo, what? I even heard someone saying bad idea, because I think they're like, yo, how the hell is she still alive? It's like, yo, like, she was gone for a while. She wasn't just in the woods. She was going, like, you know, there's a lot there. So you're like, damn, that's kind of wild, because everyone's like, how the hell are you alive? What's going on? What did she experience? And she's explaining everything to Jim, and she's kind of wondering, like, I was supposed to go and find out answers, but I didn't. I ended up right back here. Now, I found out all I found out about Miranda, Victor's mom, but she still feels like, for one, she's like, I guess I was meant to find something. And like I said, the reason why she was brought back is because I believe she did find what she was supposed to find. She just doesn't recognize it yet. Maybe in conjunction with what she's seen and what Victor is starting to remember, maybe there's something there, especially because those two have bonded and got closer last season, especially because, like, he's able to kind of help her with everything. So, which obviously Victor's unaware that his dad's here. Not everyone in town knows that that's Victor's dad, because not unless they're like, who are you, sir? He's like, oh, have you seen my son? It's like, who? Victor. And it's like, whoa, you're Victor's dad. That will probably come up next episode, but currently Tabitha's only talking to Jim about that. But our biggest fear is, what if I screw the pooch on our one opportunity? Like, me being outside of the town, what if that was our one opportunity to leave and I screwed up? And it's like, I don't think so. I think it's meant to be, you were always meant to come back here. And once again, you're armed with something you don't realize you're armed with. And it might be the piece to the puzzle that will blow this whole thing wide open. Maybe. It's interesting too because all the while that's happening, there's a conversation between Julie and Ethan where he was like checking in on her, like, you haven't been the same, you've been a little different, and she confided in him about her fear and being scared, and but she's like, Ethan's like, I got your back, I'm gonna look out for you, but she's like, I'm the big sibling, I'm gonna look after you. He's like, but if our parents don't come back, we have to look out for each other. Which luckily Tabitha and Jim are okay, but at the same time, it's like, well, it's still nighttime. Things could still go sideways with everything going on. So you don't want to count your eggs before they're hatched type of situation, because it's like, yeah, they're fine now, but shit could go super sideways and they could both get got next episode type of thing. Super unlikely, but it's like you don't know in this place. Which the final like middle finger in this episode was Randall's body left on the ambulance car, and you're like, damn, that sucks. But then he's still alive, and you see a piece of his face was like ripped. So normally they would torture like they did with Tien, like that would have been Tien-Chen, that would have been like more of a message to Boyd. This still is too, but I'm like, they did something to him. Like I said, I think they're starting a process to, maybe it's like a monsterization of like they're trying to turn him into one of them. And they started up like everything that him, Julie, and Marielle went through is about starting that process, and they kind of like went to the next step with it, maybe. So bringing Randall in now might just be trouble in the long run. Hell, like Fatima didn't even go through all that, and she seems to already be going through that process. So. You know something I didn't even think about this episode, because I completely forgot about Christy being hurt. So like, oh, they're rolling up with an ambulance. I was like, well, that's actually going to help, because you're going to have more medical supplies, other medical professionals to help, besides like Marielle. Like, you just have more people on staff to help. But it's like, nope, both paramedics are dead. The survivor is a cop. It's like, well, we've already got one cop, but it's like another person to help out. But, I'm curious to see what her role is going to be going forward. But some very, very interesting developments all across the board. I'm probably forgetting some other story beats. Oh yeah, once again, Home Dude, who I keep forgetting. Like, I think his name is like Ijian or something like that. Who is seeing the woman again, and just she's like, help me. And I'm like, I wonder, is that Miranda? Are we going to find out that's Miranda? Or maybe it's not Miranda, maybe it's someone else who was chosen before, who maybe he's the key to all of this. Like, once again, different people are seeing different things, because he's not seeing the same thing that Jade is seeing or Tabitha is seeing. So, and like, all these people have to get together and figure out like what this all means. And I'm so curious to see what those conversations are going to be like next episode. We'll just ultimately have to wait to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.